Nothing happens to him.
Thank you. That's the last thing they need after losing their son.
Yeah,
Oh, they lost a son.
that was suicide, right? Their son.
No, it was an OD. It was the end of January of this past year.
This year.
He was in his
forgot.
30s.
Yeah, we did pray.
Mhm,
Did we
yeah.
pray back then?
Yeah, I'm sure. Eddie's birthday is today.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so keep his
Shame.
prayer, his family, and yeah,
Yeah.
I need to put that in the prayer team. I gotta remember. I meant to do it yesterday. All right, we are in Revelation chapter 6, verse 12. I'll just read the end to 7, just to refresh our memories. Or do we want to just do a quick refresher?
Yeah, I can read it.
Just go ahead and read it. So we're in the horses, the white horse, the Antichrist, the red horse, the red horse was blood. The black horse was famine. Did I miss one? Okay, and the pale horse was death. Death takes the body, Hades takes the soul. And now we are, did I miss any?
Well, the fifth seal was where the martyrs wanted revenge. Well,
Oh, yeah, so the martyrs were under are they under the altar? Under the altar, yeah, the souls of those that had been slain during tribulation. We know that because it says about the people still dwelling on the earth. And we learn that a certain number has to be complete before God can avenge them, showing that God is in control. Verse 12, when he opened the sixth seal, I looked, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of the sky fell to the earth as the fig tree sheds its winter fruit when shaken by a gale. The sky vanished like a scroll that is being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Then the kings of the earth and the great ones, and the generals, and the rich, and the powerful, and everyone, slave and free, hid themselves in the caves among the rocks of the mountains, calling to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who is seated on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. Capitalized. For the great day of their wrath has come. Who can stand? Make note that there's a question at the end of chapter 6, because that's going to be important later. Do we want to do John first, then Worsby, and then Tony?
Sure.
Okay. Cindy, you're up.
You want 12 to 17?
How does Worsby and Tony break it up? Might be easier to do a section at a time.
12, 14, 15, 16, 16.
12,
Like
13, 14, 16, 17.
Mine's 12 through 17.
Oh, Worsby does that, the whole thing?
12 through 17, and it's really not that long.
What's wrong with him? Well, I guess do it all.
Okay. Sixth seal. The force described in this seal is overpowering fear. Reference Luke 21:26. While the first 5 seals will result from human activity God used to accomplish his purposes, at this point, he begins direct intervention. Reference.
Okay, so that was Luke, what, 21:26?
Yes.
Okay.
He begins direct intervention. Reference Matthew 24:29, Luke 21:25.
So God's begins direct intervention.
Yes.
So up to this point, then basically it's man's consequence.
I guess.
If he's doing it, or just him using, oh, it could be just him using earthly things and now he's directly, I guess we'll find out.
Directly intervening, right.
Hmm.
The previous 5 seals will be precursors to the full fury of the day of the Lord, which will begin with the 6th seal.
Oh, okay, so this is the day of the Lord that they'll refer to this often.
The events described in this seal unleash the 7th, which contains the trumpet judgments, chapters 8, 9, and 11, and the bowl judgments, chapter 16.
Should have been putting stuff on the board.
Great earthquake. There have been many earthquakes prior to this. Reference Matthew 24:7. But this will be more than an earthquake. All the earth's faults will begin to fracture simultaneously, resulting in a cataclysmic global earthquake. Oh my. Moon became like blood. Accompanying the earthquake will be numerous volcanic eruptions. Large amounts of ash and debris will be blown into the Earth's atmosphere.
I feel like there's so much here. So it's a worldwide earthquake.
Yeah, can you
Is that what
imagine?
he said?
Yeah, that's hard to fathom.
Yeah, I'm making note here because there's going to be another earthquake when he comes.
Worsby describes it as worldwide convulsions and catastrophes.
This says the earth itself is going to tremble.
Wow. I don't know that I ever caught the severity of that
Yeah,
before.
either.
And
Which
remember
would
when you,
Go ahead.
oh, Chrissy, remember when you were asking, God begins direct intervention and you were wondering as opposed to what?
Yeah.
My footnote for 612 says the 6th seal changes the scene back to the physical world. The first 5 judgments were directed towards specific areas, but this judgment is universal. Everyone will be afraid when the earth itself trembles.
So okay, so up until 11, they were specified areas.
That's what it says, yeah. Directed towards specific areas.
That's interesting too. I don't know that I picked that up before either. So this final one, and this is like a klezmatic, it's like the klezmatic conclusion or the klezmatic introduction to the rest of the craziness. And I've run out of room for notes, so I hope nobody has anything interesting to say.
Chrissy needs a piece of paper.
Yeah. Sorry, Cindy, go ahead.
Okay, ash and debris will be blown into the Earth's atmosphere, blackening the sun and giving the moon a blood red hue. Reference Zechariah 14:6-7.
Zechariah, Z-E or Z-A?
ZECH
What was that reference again?
14:6-7.
Thank you.
6:13. Stars of heaven fell.
We're at 13.
Stars can refer to any celestial body, large or small, and is not limited to normal English usage. The best explanation is a massive asteroid or meteor shower. Late figs. Winter figs that grow without the protection of leaves, and they are easily blown from the tree. 6:14, sky receded as a scroll. The Earth's atmosphere will be somehow dramatically affected, and the sky as we know it will disappear.
I mean,
Rough-
that makes total sense. If all the fault lines and everything has gone into convulsion, that's going to wreak havoc in every aspect of the atmosphere, water supply, like every single thing would be this, if the sun, if the light is interfered with, like every single thing.
Mhm. And the sky as we know it will disappear. Reference Isaiah 34:4. Every mountain and island was moved. Under the stress created by the global earthquake, great segments of the Earth's plates will begin to slip and shift, realigning whole continents. Wow. 6:16.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is this while we're still here?
No, because the seals aren't open until we're all in heaven in 5.
Okay, now that's why I was wondering what I missed, like previously, if,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in 5, we are all in heaven.
okay,
And
That's-
after chapter 4, I think the church is, after chapter 3, the church is no longer mentioned. And unless
Okay.
someone else has some other interpretation.
well, praise God for that.
Yes. 6:16, wrath of the Lamb. Earth's inhabitants will recognize for the first time the source of all their trouble. Incredibly, prior to this, they will be living life as usual. Matthew 24:37-39.
Yeah, that's an interesting verse, because isn't that where it says they were partying, they were eating, they were getting married, they were like just living life, not paying any attention,
It's like in Noah's.
just like now.
Yeah, really. 6:17, great day.
Yeah.
The sixth seal will begin what the prophets call the day of the Lord. See introduction to Joel. See note on 1 Thessalonians 5:2. And that's all I have.
Here, I'll go to First Thessalonians. I know it's in the New Testament. First Thessalonians, what? 5.
5:10, 5:2.
The day of the Lord. There are 19 indisputable uses of the day of the Lord in the Old Testament and 4 in the New Testament. The Old Testament prophets use the day of the Lord to describe near historical judgments or far eschatological divine judgments. It is also referred to as the day of vengeance. Makes sense. The Lord's coming back. He's directly intervening. The New Testament calls it day of wrath or day of visitation and the great day of God Almighty. These are terrifying judgments for the overwhelming sinfulness of the world. From God for the overwhelming sinfulness of the world. The future day of the Lord that God unleashes wrath falls into 2 parts. One is the end of the 7-year tribulation. 2 is the end of the millennium. These two are actually 1,000 years apart, and Paul refers to the end of the 1,000-year period in connection with the final day of the Lord. Here, Paul refers to that aspect of the day of the Lord which concludes the tribulation period. So we'll have one, which is the 7-year tribulation, which is going to start now after, well, 7's an interjection, so it'll be 8. And then we have the one at the Great White Throne Judgment, I guess, at the end of the millennium. You free to read, Caitlin?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure when you're ready.
No, that's all right.
Okay. 12 through 17. The martyrs cried, "Avenge us," but the unbelievers on earth will cry, "Hide us." The opening of the sixth seal will produce worldwide convulsions and catastrophes, including the first of 3 great earthquakes. All of nature will be affected, the sun, moon, and stars, as well as the heavens, the mountains, and the islands. Compare this scene with Joel 2:30 through 31 and 3:15, as well as with Isaiah 13:9 through 10 and 34 2 through 4. Do you want to look any of those up?
I was looking for Joel here. I think he's near the end of the Old Testament, isn't he? Lori, what is your little,
Joel, well, he's after Hosea before Amos. After Daniel,
okay, towards the
Yeah,
end of the Old
yeah.
Testament then.
3/4,
Okay, Hosea, where is he?
right after Hosea.
Okay, what references, Caitlin? Cause I know.
Joel 2,
Yeah,
30 through 31.
30 through 31. Before the day of the Lord, unmistakable heavenly phenomena that will signal the imminent arrival of God's wrath in the day of the Lord. So the verses themselves actually say, "And I will show wonders in the heavens and on earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes." I guess this is where Stan was saying, like, if you are in the Old Testament and then you go to the New Testament and you're reading about there, that's when it's like showing fulfillment.
And then it's also chapter 3, verse 15.
3:15 says, he puts 15 and 16 together, the sun and moon and the stars, these are signs that precede the coming eschatological day of the Lord at the end of the great tribulation. So 15 and 16, the sun and the moon were darkened and the stars withdraw their shining. The Lord roars from Zion and utters his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth quake. But the Lord is a refuge to his people and a stronghold to the people of Israel.
Isaiah 13:9 and 10 says, "Look, the day of the Lord is coming, cruel with fury and burning anger, to make the earth a desolation and to destroy its sinners. Indeed, the stars of the sky and its constellations will not give their light. The sun will be dark when it rises, and the moon will not shine." And
What were those
34.
Go ahead, sorry.
That's okay. Which one? Joel?
Joel 2,
30 through 31.
30 through 31, and 3.
3:15. Isaiah 13:9 through 10. And 34, 2 through 4. The Lord is angry with all the nations, furious with all their armies. He will set them apart for destruction, giving them over to slaughter. Their slain will be thrown out, and the stench of their corpses will rise. The mountains will flow with their blood. All the stars in the sky will dissolve. The sun will roll up like a scroll, and its stars will all wither, as leaves wither on the vine and foliage on the fig tree.
Is that all he has to say?
No. That
He's
was
reading
just
Isaiah.
that was
Reading-
Isaiah 34:9 2 through 4. Even though John wrote using symbolic language, these verses describe a scene that would frighten even the most courageous person. People will try to hide from the face of God and from the face of the Lamb. Imagine wanting to hide from a lamb. I once heard Dr. Vance Havner say that the day would come when the most expensive piece of real estate would be a hole in the ground, and he was right. We will see more of the wrath of God as we progress through Revelation. We will also encounter the wrath of Satan and the wrath of the nations as they oppose God. If men and women will not yield to the love of God and be changed by the grace of God, then there is no way for them to escape the wrath of God. Rank and wealth will not deliver anyone in that terrible day. John lists including kings, captains, and slaves, the rich and the poor, who shall be able to stand. The phrase wrath of the Lamb seems a paradox. Wrath of the Lion would be more consistent. We are so accustomed to emphasizing the meekness and gentleness of Christ that we forget his holiness and justice. The same Christ who welcomed the children also drove the merchants from the temple. God's wrath is not like a child's temper tantrum or punishment meted out by an impatient parent. God's wrath is the evidence of his holy love for all that is right and his holy hatred for all that is evil. Only a soft and sentimental person would want to worship a God that did not deal justly with evil in the world. Furthermore, the people mentioned here are impotent. Impotent. It's a half word. They refuse to submit to God's will. They would rather hide from God in fear, remember Adam and Eve, than run to him in faith. They are proof that judgment by itself does not change the human heart. Not only will men seek to hide from God, but they will blaspheme him as well. But is there any hope for believers during this terrible time of judgment? And what about God's special people, the Jews, who made a covenant with the Antichrist? Certainly people will trust the Lord even after the church is taken to heaven, but how will they manage? We turn to Revelation 7 for some of the answers. But before considering John's third theme in this section, redemption, we must note the parallels that exist between Christ's prophetic words recorded in Matthew 24 and what John wrote in Revelation 6. The following summary outline makes this clear. I'll send a picture of this if you want. Matthew 24, false Christ. Revelation, white horse rider. Matthew 24, wars. Revelation 6, red horse, war. Matthew 24, famines. Revelation 6 is the black horse, which is famine. Matthew 24, death. Revelation, pale horse, is death. Matthew 24, martyrs. Revelation, martyrs under the altar. And Matthew 24, worldwide chaos. Revelation, worldwide chaos. Matthew 24:14 introduces the preaching of the gospel of the kingdom throughout the whole world, and this may well be where Revelation 7 fits in. God may use the sealed 144,000 Jews to share his word with the world, resulting in the salvation of multitudes.
All right, Tony.
Very makes sense, isn't it?
Mhm.
Sorry. Caitlin, would you read that last sentence again, please?
Yeah. Yep. God may use the sealed 144,000 Jews to share his word with the world, resulting in the salvation of multitudes.
I'm struggling with the line of like what people are where, like Kathy was saying. So we're already believers that have believed during our time right now and are already in heaven, and those before us, so you're saying all the believers are in heaven at this point, but then before the breaking, then we're going to move into another group of people, these 144,000,
Yes.
and they get to
So-
feel, yeah.
If you're pre-trib believer, because some people believe in pre-trib, the rapture, the word rapture is not actually in the Bible. I wish I had my other Bible here, but there's a reference in, I think, 1 Thessalonians, talks about being gone in the blink of an eye, like Jesus comes on the Shekinah cloud and will be gone. So that's basically the common belief, is that the church will be raptured. So the church, because we are in the church age right now. So there's the Old Testament saints, Jesus came, we become believers in Jesus. That's the church, Christians, Christ followers. So the church itself is gone. And we know that after chapter 3, there's no more mention of the church. So
Okay, and
then
that's,
in,
and that's pre-tribulation.
correct.
Okay,
And so
okay.
then we know in chapter 4 that we are at the throne in heaven and everybody's up there worshiping in heaven. Like that's our celebration. But we get to the end of chapter 4, beginning of chapter 5, and there's this sealed scroll. And like John realizes nobody worthy to open this scroll. Then we figure out, oh, wait, Jesus is worthy to open this scroll. So that's where the Lamb comes in. And then we get to these 7 seals. So Jesus is the one worthy to open these 7 seals. So he begins to open them. And as he opens these 7 seals, or as he begins to open the scroll, we see, was it the first one? All of these come out? No. Okay, when you open the first one, that's when we see the white horse saying that the Antichrist. When he opens the second one, we should probably write these on the board. So we get down through all these horses. So at this point, you have the church in heaven. The only thing on earth is unbelievers. And then you also have these Jews because they were not Christians, even though they believe in God, they weren't Christians. They weren't part of the church. However, they do know the Old Testament really well. So once this happens, and then they read Revelation, they're going to connect the dots because they know Ezekiel, they know Isaiah, they know Hosea, they know Zechariah, they know Joel. So it's all going to make, they'll become the missionaries on earth. So you're going to have the unsaved. Because here at the end of chapter 6, we'll get into this more. Here at the end of chapter 6, it's like you have this horrible worldwide fear, this worldwide earthquake, and these people hiding under the rocks. And they're saying, this wrath for the wrath has come. Who can stand? When we go into chapter 7, consider that kind of an parenthesis. Like he's going to answer that question in chapter 7. Who is going to stand? Then
So
we'll
those,
get back.
yeah,
ahead.
so they're specifically Jewish people, these 144,000.
Yes. 12 from
Okay.
each tribe. 12 from each tribe. But what's interesting to me, we'll get into it. But when you go look at those tribes, do you see Dan on there?
Yeah. No.
And I didn't put this together until last time we were in Israel. We went all the way south in Israel and we went all the way north in Israel. Dan, current day Dan, is all the way north, but that's not the property God gave them. God gave them Gaza. Where's the war at right now?
Mhm.
They
Right,
didn't go where God told them because the Phoenicians were to the north. The Phoenicians had all the wealth and the money and the merchandising. They wanted up there where the water was, where the green was, where all the money was. They picked. They weren't obedient. And I find that interesting because they're not on this list.
So how are you spelling Dan? D-A-N?
Yeah, Dan. Mhm.
Okay. And you're saying the people didn't go to Dan like God wanted them to. Is Dan a place?
Dan is a tribe.
It's a tribe.
Dan, tribe of Dan did not go to the land that God gave their tribe specifically, which was the Gaza, what is currently the Gaza Strip. If you look on a map, Dan is clear up north. That is not the land God gave them.
The tribe of Dan is up north.
Yes. That's
Gotcha.
where they settled instead of settling where God told them to settle.
Okay, so God gave them Gaza, but they did not go there, and then it became inhabited
Inhabited.
inhabited by.
Well, I mean, it's the Jews have been, I mean, if you know the history, the Jews have been very accommodating to the Palestinians. The land belongs to the Jews, but they allow even to the point of the Palestinians controlling the Temple Mount. So for them to say, well, the Jews are killing us, the Jews are doing that, it's like, I have been there. I see how the Palestinian, they throw their trash in the backyard because they despise the Jews so much. But I'm not saying that we should not love the Palestinians. We should. And I don't even think the Palestinians are the issue here. Hamas is the issue.
right, right.
Hamas is the issue. And they're using the Palestinians. And they literally don't care about human life at all. They like they're the hands of Satan. They rate those, like, you're not gonna see this on the news. They rate when they entered those different Israeli communities, they raped the women. They shoved scissors up inside of them. They chopped the babies' heads off in their crib. How anybody can be standing and defending that is beyond me. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know how they couldn't know, but anyway, here I am on a bandwagon again.
Because the news didn't
No, it
report
doesn't.
it.
But I've watched, like when we were on the Temple Mount, you were not allowed to have a cross. You were not allowed to have a Bible. A man and a woman's not allowed to touch. The Jews own that Temple Mount. They can do whatever they want to do. But when we were up there, a couple that was with us went to touch to get a picture. And I mean, this is in 2017, the Israeli guard had a machine gun and just went off the deep end because they touched. And our guide, Ruben, which I'm posting his videos right now, he's trying to help people. He taught me about humility because he went to that guard, he apologized, he told them that that, you know, we were sorry, you know, it was an accident, blah, 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 was very humble and walked away from that. He could have put that guard in his place.
Was it an Israeli guard?
No, it was an
Okay, you said-
Arabian, it was a Palestinian
Oh, I
guard.
see, 'cause you
Mhm,
said-
a Muslim.
You said Israeli originally,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and
No,
I'm thinking,
the Temple Mount is the Jews. They own it.
yes.
They allow
Palestinians.
they allow the Muslims to control it.
Yeah.
So he
Oh,
could
so-
have put him in his place, but he chose not to.
The Temple Mount is in Gaza.
No, the Temple Mount's in Jerusalem. And that's
I'm so
where,
confused. Okay.
it's okay, when the Lord comes back, well, I mean, we're gonna get into more of it later, but when the Lord comes back, he's going to be in the Mount of Olives, which if you, like, I don't know if you'd have to see the pictures, but literally it's within walking distance of the Eastern Gate. And then he will land in the Mount Olives, he'll go through the Eastern Gate. This is all in Jerusalem. That's why there's such a battle for Jerusalem. Because they believe that their Muhammad or whatever is also on that Temple Mount. And so when you see that gold dome that everybody always promotes, that gold dome, that's actually the Muslim dome. So I hate it that, like, every time you see a picture of Jerusalem, they make a point of that, because this little time, wow, they might think that that's where for a long time, they thought that's where the temple would be rebuilt. But literally there's this little tiny humble gazebo type thing right next to that actually does line up with the Eastern Gate. That's probably where that Mount, God would not use Satan's rock. He just wouldn't.
Why did the Israelites allow the Muslims to control it?
So back whenever God gave them their land back, I think it was like May 14th of 1948. When
Right,
he got that back, they were accommodating to the Palestinians that lived there. Like,
right.
they didn't say you have to get out. And then there was another war, which was really interesting, but whoever the leader was at the time, that was part of the negotiations.
Oh, wow.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I'm sure it was part of God's plan too.
I'm sure.
Right, right.
And
Mm.
honestly, when the last time we were there, like, it was so strict in 17. Like, honestly, when we went this in the spring, I was expecting that same type of rigidness, and it was really relaxed. But there was a Muslim holiday like the day before, so I don't know if it was really, like, Stan and I got up on the Temple Mount, like, lickety split, like we thought we'd have to wait forever, like, and it was a different experience. But and they believe the Ark of the Covenant is actually right there at the Wailing Wall underneath, because there's tunnels and stuff that are blocked off. It's really, really interesting. And it's like, it all makes sense to you when you go there and you start actually seeing the things and understanding where things are. Did you read all three?
I didn't hear any.
Oh,
But
okay.
Whenever you said that, just brought a question to mind. Is the Ark of the Covenant gonna come up here in Revelation?
Well, I don't think it does, unless
Okay.
they put it back into I don't know. It's important. They need it for the temple. So I think
Mhm. So it has to be somewhere.
it has to be somewhere. I mean, it's so important. God lived there.
In the Old Testament.
Yeah. But God will also, like, rule in Jerusalem. So, or Jesus will.
All right, Tony says the sixth seal brings disruption of nature, a violent earthquake, the sun's turning black like sackcloth made of hair, which is likely because of volcanoes erupting and spewing ash that blocks sunlight, disruption of the moon, the stars of heaven, splitting of the sky, and the moving of the mountains and islands. It will appear that God is undoing the created elements he formed in Genesis 1. Well, that's interesting. As people of all social classes, kings and nobles, along with every slave and free person run for their lives, they'll know they are under God's judgment. This is evident from the cry to the mountains, to the rocks, fall on us, hide us from the face of the one seated on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. Well, while it would be logical for individuals under judgment to call for mercy and salvation, these people's hearts have become so hardened that they prefer death to salvation. Notice that they know God's identity precisely. He is God the Father and God the Son. Nevertheless, they want nothing to do with him, idiots. The great day of wrath, marks a transition point in the tribulation. Approximately 3.5 years through the 7-year period, Earth will experience what Jesus calls the Great Tribulation, great distress. CSB, what
Version,
yeah,
Christian Standard Version, maybe?
what B?
Oh, B.
Though the CSB renders it as merely a description, can also be taken as a proper name. The Old Testament prophet Jeremiah speaks of the great tribulation in stark terms. How awful that day will be. There will be no other like it. It will be a time of trouble for Jacob, but he will be saved out of it, aka Israel. Right?
What'd you say? I'm looking up your
The-
CSB.
Time of great trouble for Jacob. Is he talking about Israel?
Mm-hmm.
But he will be saved out of it. The encouraging news then,
Christian Standard Bible.
that many people will be saved during this period. Hear that, Kimmy? Where'd she go?
Yeah,
The
I'm right here.
encouraging news then, huh? Are you doing setups?
no.
The encouraging news then is that many people will be saved during this period. However, those still in rebellion against God will experience heightened judgment. There, that's interesting. So many people are going to be saved in the second half of this tribulation.
Which is what God's doing. He's continuing to give opportunity after opportunity until there's just no one left that will bend.
I like that, what Tony said. It will appear that God is undoing the created elements he formed in Genesis 1.
Which millennium will take us back to like garden-like environment, I think.
That's the marker. Many people will be saved during this period.
Do we want to start our outline of Revelation? Because we just did the 7 seals, the 7th seal. Okay, we'll answer this question: who will stand? So we'll answer that in 7, and then we get back to 8. 8 is the 7th seal, and that opens up the 7 trumpets. So I think sometimes it's good to have a visual of that. Do we want to start that tomorrow, like drawing that out on the board? It helped a lot, I think, to have that visual before.
I think
So we'll
that's
do that.
helpful.
Okay, we'll do that tomorrow then.
Okay.
I'll go find all my colored markers.
And he said the second half of the tribulation, a lot of people will be saved.
Well, I think we'll have them I think you're going to have a more overwhelming, because during that time of horribleness, because at first there's going to be peace in Israel, like those 144,000 will really come out as missionaries probably during the most horrible time.
So this,
And you're saying this is the beginning right here, this 6th seal, basically. of
Well-
the tribulation?
No, the beginning of the tribulation will happen when that 7-year period starts, when they sign that covenant. So when that
Ah.
covenant gets signed with whoever the Antichrist is, the Arabic European guy, that's the start of the 7-year. He's going to sign that peace treaty with Israel, not the world, but with Israel. Then we have 3.5 years until he lies or should, breaks the covenant.
Shows his true colors.
Yeah. Because that peace treaty, he'll be like, yeah, go ahead and build the temple. Go ahead and do, yeah. And then he'll set himself up as God. But we'll get into that more.
Yeah, so this is all still pre-tribulation.
No, we're in the middle.
No, we're going in. We're going
Okay.
in. Because he's saying, okay, this is in these seals, this is everything that's going to happen. And then it's like, okay, well, who's going to be able to withstand it? That's the question. Then he between 6 and 7 in these seals is an interjection of chapter 7.
Okay.
Saying, well, this is who it's going to be. And then when we go back into chapter 8, we go back into that last seal, which then opens up the 7 trumpets, which will make more sense probably when I draw it.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Any of this familiar to those that studied it before?
Yeah, I need to go back and look at my notes.
I feel like you have to, I feel like
do
we should, I
too.
was thinking this today, I feel like we should do Revelation at least once a year, just to keep our minds fresh with it.
Did you get the Daniel thing done yet?
No, I'm working on it.
Okay.
If we do Revelation every year, we'll just have 6 months. It'll be 6 months of Revelation, 6 months of something else.
We'll never make it through the Bible, people.
I think it's good though to all to have a group of people that's well versed in it so that we can then teach others. I thought Elena did a great job yesterday when she showed her little graph of like one lady touched her and how she touched all these. And I said to Stan, I said, yeah, we know that's what happens in our head, but to see her visual really was impactful to me.
I feel the
So-
same way. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
We start chapter 7 tomorrow.
Well, we'll come in tomorrow. We'll do our graphing out first, and then we'll start chapter 7.
Do
right,
you
this
need
can-
more sticker poster stuff? Because that
Very
board's not going to be big enough.
I agree. That's why I said we need 2 more boards, one for each side of the wall, so we can
You
just
really
go like
do.
this wall and then work our way over it, and then work our way over this side.
Mm-hmm. I know.
What's the OG say? She open to spending it like $400 more. I don't know how much they were. They don't need to be magnetic.
I don't know either.
They can just need to
Stan
be a
says
dry.
the magnetic ones are more sturdy.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever Stan says then. Got Pastor Stan.
I don't know. He said yesterday, always do what the wife says.
This is true. He did. And that's why my table.
It'll
ate
come
that.
back to bite him.
All right, this concludes the reading of God's word for today. I'll stop recording. So bye, Frankie. Bye, Tracy.
Bye,
Bye.
ladies.
Bye-bye,
I wanna-
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Lizzie, leave me on for 1 second.